Iran says it launched strikes on U.S. assets in the Middle East, including an American base in Jordan. This follows U.S. retaliation for the downing of an Apache helicopter. Iran also targeting the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. Video geolocated by CNN does appear to show a flash coming from the area of a U.S. naval facility there. Both Bahrain and Kuwait say they intercepted a number of Iranian strikes. The president told Fox News he's getting close to ordering new strikes on Iranian bridges and power plants because negotiations have been so slow. And before that, on social media, he wrote of Iran, now they will have to pay the price. This follows a range of back and forth attacks between the U.S. and Iran overnight. Iran saying it launched strikes on U.S. targets in the Middle East, including a base in Jordan and the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. Iran state media says U.S. strikes hit 2 reservoirs, cutting off drinking water to 20,000 people. CENTCOM has not yet responded to that. I want to get right to CNN's Elena Treen live at the White House with the president talking in a much different way this morning than he has.
No, absolutely, John. This is quite a sharp turn from what we had heard from President Donald Trump not even 48 hours ago, when he had said early Tuesday morning that he believed a deal could be 2 to 3 days away. Now, of course, posting online that he believes that Iran has taken too long to negotiate a deal, which he said would have been great for them. Now they will have to pay the price. Those are the words from President Trump this morning. I should note as well, he also spoke with Fox News and he indicated that he was considering wider military action toward Iran, arguing that peace talks have continued to falter. Again, very different from what we've heard from the president. I note that over this entire ceasefire, which started back in April, the president at least 37 times has been trying to indicate that a deal is close. Now, of course, I think some questions around is this really is the president being sincere when he says this? Did these strikes, the exchange of fire that we saw between Washington and Tehran yesterday, the U.S. saying they were defensive in nature in response to that downing of an Apache helicopter on Monday, has this really changed the president's mind about where talks are and whether or not a deal is actually possible? Or, of course, could this just be bluster from Trump trying to exert more leverage and pressure on the Iranians at a time when many officials, again, over the past couple of days have said they believed a framework deal was close? We have to wait and see. Now, I do want to share with you that when I spoke with a U.S. official yesterday about the U.S. retaliatory strikes in Iran, they had told me that really they were designed to be a warning shot. You heard from CENTCOM saying that the attacks would be proportional, and that they had came out and said yesterday that they were had finished. They had concluded after a series of those U.S. strikes and the exchange with Iran. A question, of course, though, is whether or not they have been contained enough that both the U.S. and the Iranians believe that diplomacy is still a viable option. Again, this is a very fragile time in the ceasefire, not just after these strikes, but after we saw over the weekend the fire exchange between Israel and Iran as well, really testing the willingness of all sides and their commitment to diplomacy. I will say we are hearing, though, some potential signs that diplomatic talks are still on the table. We know that there is a Qatari delegation right now in Tehran trying to bridge the gaps between these two sides. We'll have to see how this goes forward. But I think a big question, of course, is whether or not this is the president really trying to exert pressure at this time, or if he is sincere.
CNN's Fred Pleitgen is in Tehran with more on the unfolding situation there. We must note, as ever, CNN operates in Iran only with the permission of the government, but maintains full editorial control of our reporting. Here's Fred.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps say that they launched powerful retaliatory strikes at U.S. military bases in the Middle Eastern region. The Iranians say that they launched aerial attacks against bases in Jordan, Kuwait, as well as the headquarters of the Fifth Fleet in Bahrain, using drones but also powerful ballistic missiles. All this comes after the United States struck areas in the Persian Gulf. The Iranians are saying that that is a violation of their sovereignty, and they are also saying that it is a pretext that the U.S. is using. Now, all of this, of course, comes after a U.S. chopper was downed near the Strait of Hormuz, the United States saying that it was hit by an Iranian drone and that it holds Iran responsible for that. In the overnight hours, there were explosions that could be heard, according to sources, in places like Bandar Abbas, but also on an island near the Persian Gulf. The U.S. saying that it struck radar installations and surface-to-air missile batteries. But the Iranians are saying that a water desalination plant was also struck, knocking out drinking water in parts of that region. Now, of course, all of this comes as the situation in the Persian Gulf and specifically in the Strait of Hormuz remains extremely volatile, with the U.S. and Iran trading blows in that area over the past couple of days. But also, as Iran and the United States are still trying to find a way to reach a memorandum of understanding that would end the hostilities between the two countries and then pave the way for broader peace negotiations. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, Tehran.
Joining me right now is CNN political and global affairs commentator Sabrina Singh and CNN global affairs analyst Kim Dozier. Guys, thanks for being here. Sabrina, let's start with this new warning from the president. What do you make of this social media posting now?
Well, what's interesting about this social media post is when CENTCOM launched the retaliatory strikes from the Apache that was shot down, they said it was proportional in nature. Now, this Truth Social post this morning could really change that. But I think the paradox here is that both sides do not want to go back to a full-scale war. So what you're seeing is Iran strike again, and the U.S., they're trading barbs back and forth. How long can this go on and continue? We don't know, but clearly the president is signaling today that he might be willing to engage in more kinetic action.
Yeah, I think the question is he saying what we've done now shows that's the price they've paid, or there's something now about to come?
That's right, and we don't know. Yeah. We don't have more information.
Yeah. Kim, what do you think of this and what this could now mean?
I think it could be another rhetorical flare from Trump that is just a typical example of what has stymied the negotiations. According to the New York Times and other outlets, they are making progress behind closed doors on everything from nuclear enrichment to and suspending that for several years, to allowing intrusive inspections of Iranian sites. But the moment you have Trump either make a threat or reveal some of this progress in public and then often take it further. Yeah, we don't want them to agree to 10 years. We want them to agree to 20 years without enrichment. And saying that publicly, that always makes progress behind closed doors that much more difficult, because then the Iranians feel like they have to publicly make a riposte to that just out of pride.
And let's talk about the back and forth retaliation here, Kim. Iran now says 20,000 Iranians have lost access to drinking water after 2 reservoirs were struck. Iran blames this on the United States. CNN has reached out to Central Command for comment on the strikes, but Trump has threatened to hit water treatment plants in Iran. He started saying that back in April. That faced backlash then because civilian infrastructure sites like water plants are banned as targets by international law. If that's what the United States is now doing, and that's an if, CENTCOM has not responded yet, what do you make of that?
Well, under U.S. military law, you can strike this kind of a target according to proportionality, according to, did this particular water reservoir or these 2 reservoirs mostly feed into military facilities? In that case, you could make a legal argument that they were okay to strike. But what we're hearing from Iran is these fed large civilian districts, and you have many Iranian military sites next to or co-located with civilian areas. So it is hard for me to understand why this was okay. Why not hit one of their drone factories or part of the military arm that's allowing them to continue with the war fighting? Because it takes decades to repair a water reservoir in a country that has struggled with drought. This is a real blow.
What questions does this raise for you in this moment?
I agree with Kim. I mean, right now, there could be a legal argument that CENTCOM could make, and that if this was, a water facility that was, assisting military facilities or military infrastructure in some way. But you know, there's a lot of questions here. And I think CENTCOM's statement yesterday said that they struck air defense targets and radars and ground control centers. So there is a bit of discrepancy. I mean, it would be nice if the Pentagon held briefings so we could ask some of these questions and get more clarification on why this desalination plant was hit. But this is going to have a big hit to the 20,000 people who depend on this water. And that is a catastrophic effect of this war. And of course, as we know, also here, the rising gas prices.